If you have an unquenchable thirst to crush your bucket list, relentlessly pursue your dreams, and live life on your own terms, then turn up the volume and tune in. You're now listening to Zeph and Moses Blacksburg on the Year of Purpose podcast.
This episode of the Year of Purpose is brought to you by our brand new book, Life Rescripted. Find your purpose and design your dream life before the curtains close. If you want to be the first in line to receive a free digital copy from me, all you have to do is head on over to www.liferescriptedbook.com to find out more. Zeph and Moses Blacksburg here from the Year of Purpose podcast, and today I have an extraordinary gentleman, and he used to deliver bread for a living, and now he's a writer. You can see his words in cool places such as the Huffington Post, Entrepreneur Magazine, Mind Body Green, The Good Men Project, Fox News, and many more. His books have sold over 100,000 copies, and his new book, Stop Chasing Influencers, drops really soon. In the last 3 years, he's lost 170 pounds and moved his family to Maui, Hawaii. His goal is to help you create freedom in your work, health, and relationships, and to live your dream life. Please welcome Kimanzi Constable. How are you doing today, man?
Safin, I'm excited to be here. I got the coffee next to me. I'm ready to go.
Awesome. And so are you calling in today? Are you in Hawaii today?
I am in Hawaii. I leave a little bit later today for France, Israel, and Egypt.
Very cool. I was in Israel back in 2008, so it's been some time. Is this your first time or have you been before?
I have been. I spoke there in 2013. And that go around, I did just like a lot of touristy stuff. I did a lot of tours. So I'm looking forward to going back this go around and maybe not doing as much touristy stuff, but actually hanging out with friends that I met at Podcast Movement.
That's awesome. My brother actually lives over there now, and he's studying, I believe, to become a rabbi. So such a cool place, so much history, and just such a different culture, you know?
Yeah, they definitely keep you on your toes when you go there. 'Cause I don't know how it was when you went there, but when I went there was a little bit of bombing going on, and you could hear it, off in the background.
Yeah, we actually traveled in an armored bus with a couple of guards everywhere. It was on like a guided trip for about 2 weeks, so it's a totally different life out there. And that's what you're living today, is a totally different life from where you were. I was watching your TED Talk, and I heard a little bit of your story, and growing up must have been tough, and you've really gotten to a very cool place that I thought of sharing with our listeners today, because I've seen you write so much. I'm actually crazy impressed by how many words. I see you post on Facebook like wrote 16,000 words today, and I'm like, oh my God, that would take me a month. And super impressed with that, and would love to maybe just kind of hear a little bit of your story and how you got to where you are.
Yeah, I had always loved to write. That was the one thing that you could trace back. My grandfather fostered that love of books, of words, because he would always get my brother and I a new book for our birthdays, and he took a lot of time with these books, Zeph, and he really thought through these, so it really fostered that love of books, of writing. I would always write like girls' love letters. I would write short stories, wrote some crazy end of the world novels when I was younger. But when I turned 17, I was homeless. My parents grew up really strict religious home, and there was a lot of things going on. There was some abuse going on, and at 17, I just left, and I would rather be homeless than deal with that. So at that point, I kind of gave up on my dreams of being a writer. Dropped out of high school, had to get jobs to survive. I met my wife at working at Burger King, which is interesting. Got married the day after I turned 18, and she said, hey, if you want to be a writer, you really should go back and get your GED and give yourself maybe a chance to do some college or something like that. So that's what I did. But what ended up happening after I got GED, it enabled me to get dead-end jobs is what it did. So I did dead-end jobs for a few years, and at 19, I had the chance to start my first business. There was some guys that delivered a bread. It was called brownberry bread where I lived in Wisconsin. Depending on where you live, you probably know it as Ora wheat. I think that's what most people know it as. But those guys that deliver that are independent contractors, meaning that they have to invest 250 grand to buy into the business. They get a territory, they get 20% of the profits, but for all intents and purposes, they work for themselves. So when they want to go on vacation, they have to hire somebody, and they're not just going to hire anybody off the street. So my business was to cover these vacation routes so that these independent operators could go on vacation. And because these guys hadn't done it before I came along, there were guys that hadn't been on vacation in like 7 years. Like, and
Oh, wow.
I'm not even exaggerating. So when I came on and I did a good job for these guys, it took, all of a month for my schedule to be full for the entire next year, because everybody's like, "Ooh, I want to go. I want to go." I want to, because with investing 250 grand, you're not just going to trust anybody with your business. So I had proven myself, and I had a good business there. And so I did that for 12 years. The business grew beyond me. At its height, I had 5 employees working for me. We had business in Wisconsin, Illinois, and Indiana, and the business was bringing in $500,000 a year. So it was a great business. The problem was me, as the CEO, president, whatever you wanted to call it. I didn't understand business. Nobody was entrepreneurial in my family. I didn't study business, so I completely mismanaged it. Like, I was the worst boss. Like, I could imagine. I went through quite a few employees, and it's probably because of me as a boss. And I wasn't organized, completely mismanaged the money completely. So come 2011, after doing this for 12 years, I was 180 grand in debt with the business. I was 170 pounds overweight from bad habits that I picked up all those years of being on this bread truck at midnight and eating fast food and Mountain Dew all the time. And that, of course, led to problems in my marriage. So that year, everything just kind of fell apart that year, Zephan. I couldn't even open a bank account in my name because the IRS would take the money out as soon as I put it in.
Wow.
It was that bad. And so what in the middle of that year, I had one of those, like, come to Jesus conversations where you just sit out and you talk to yourself and you're like, what is going on? And I talked, I had a long conversation, long thought, meditation, whatever you want to call it, prayer. I realized that if things are going to change, I had to do something about them. I wasn't going to win the lottery, even though I was playing. Wasn't going to get inheritance from a long lost relative because none of my relatives have money. The only way that this was going to happen is if I was proactive and I went out there and I took charge. And so that's what I did. I stopped feeling sorry for myself. I went to Half Price Books to get some inspiration. And it just so happened that right there on the shelf, I saw this book called 48 Days to the Work You Love by a man named Dan Miller. And I'm like, 48 days to the work you love? Like, that's me. I want to be in my job 48 days. Not realizing that the book is not about literally leaving your job in 48 days. But that book helped me get that necessary mindset shift. So to switch from always doubting and having these self-limiting beliefs and doubting myself and doubting what's possible, to seeing that there is a possibility for me to radically change my life if I was willing to do what it takes. And so it took the rest of that year to figure out what do I really want to do in life. And I came back to the thing that I had loved so long ago, which was writing. I honestly wanted to be a writer. And so I self-published a book that year in 2011 because I didn't understand marketing or internet stuff. The book flopped. It sold like 5 copies in 6 months. 3 of those were to friends, which was at the time it was irritating. But now looking back on it now, it's kind of funny. But I wasn't going to give up at that point. So 2012, I decided to research and understand what does it take to build like a lifestyle business. And in 2012, it was a year of massive action. I wrote guest blogs because I didn't have any website traffic of my own. So I figured if I write for other people's blogs that have traffic and they link back to mine, I'm going to get some traffic. So that year, I ended up having 60 guest blogs go live on various blogs, all the way as big as Michael Hyatt all the way down to a blogger that you probably have never even heard of. So but it was a lot of posts. I got on 80 different podcasts that year, just sharing my story. I did horror requests. I did any way that I could find to get exposure. I did. I spoke at my library. I was everywhere. I was hustling. And by the end of that year, the result was I ended up getting 500,000 visitors to my website that year. I ended up selling, I self-published a second book, and I ended up selling about 40,000 copies of both books. I got some opportunities to come speak. I remember my very first speaking gig was at this social media event in Huntington, West Virginia. And I remember I got off stage. The talk wasn't that great. I wasn't that great. Let's just be honest, it sucked. And I think it's on YouTube somewhere, so don't look for it. But I remember getting off stage and the conference organizer was there and she's like, here you go. And she handed me a check and it was for $125. They had covered my travel and gave me $125. And to me, that $125 felt like it was like $1,000,000. Like, I'm like, look, I got paid to speak. Like I'm a paid speaker. It was a wonderful moment. And so by the end of 2012, I had a business that was consistently bringing in about $5,000 a month. And we used all the money from the book sales to pay down the debt. We paid down a very good chunk of that debt with the money from the two self-published books. And so I quit my day job at the end of 2012. I gave the business to a friend of mine who's still doing it today, and he's thriving in it. You know, he's a lot better than I am at it, and he enjoys it. So that's great. But I left and I started pursuing my dream of being a writer, speaker / lifestyle entrepreneur full time. And in 2013, 2014, those were really building years. And I built this business. And in 2014, we wanted to fulfill one of our lifelong dreams of moving from Milwaukee, Wisconsin to our dream destination of Maui, Hawaii. And we made that move about 18 months ago. And then come 2015, as if I haven't been rambling on enough, come 2015, I had the cool experience of being on Smart Passive Income with Pat Flynn in January of this year. And ever since that happened, like, things just went haywire. Like the business went from, a decent business that was probably in, consistently like in the $8,000 a month range, to being like in the $15,000 to $20,000 a month range, with the different opportunities. So that show was a blessing to be on. And in the last, few months here, through the publications that I write for that you mentioned, I've just started to have some conferences and a few companies reach out and say, hey, would you mind expanding upon what you've written about and come train on it at our company? Hence me leaving in a few hours to go to Israel, France, and Egypt. And I get to go train at some cool companies there. And so, here I am today. I'm living my dream life. I travel, I write. I'm the author of 4 books. I get to be there. I have flexibility where I get to be there for my kids and be there for everything in their life. And I love this life.
Well, first I have to say thank you, because the fact that you're getting ready to hop on a plane in a little bit here shows to me that you really took some time out of your day, and I know that you're super busy. So first, thanks so much for spending that time with me. And I think a big question that came up for me in all of this was, why do you think people kind of let it go so far to the point where, whether they've gained weight or have got into so much debt? For me, as someone who has zero debt, has never had debt, it's a scary thing, right? So even like $5,000 or $10,000 in debt, and I'd probably be freaking out, let alone, over $100,000. So what do you think it is that that people are waiting so long to start fixing things? And how do we create that turning point if we've dug ourselves such a big hole?
I think that it works in the same way that it would work the other way. So like if, let's say, you wanted to pay down the debt, right? The way that you would do that is you wouldn't, unless you got an inheritance or won the lottery, you'd probably be doing that over time. If you wanted to lose weight, the way that you do that is you would have to do it incrementally over time. And so I think that's how like a situation like that happens in our life. It happens over time and incrementally. So that first year, getting the tax bill, good year, $75,000 in income, and then getting a tax bill at the end of the year because you're not paying quarterlies and everything
Right.
else, getting a tax bill for like 10 grand. And you're like, well, I don't have 10 grand. Like, where is that going to come from?
Yeah.
And you kind of just put it off and say, okay, I'll pay that like mid next year. And then it doesn't happen. So I think like incrementally over time, it doesn't seem like it's that big or daunting at the time. And you kind of put it in the back burner, or maybe you'll chip away at it. Maybe you'll pay, $1,000 towards it, and you'll feel good because you're like, "Ooh, I made a little bit of progress," not realizing that the interest alone on that kind of debt to the government is going to eat you alive. And so I think it's a combination of it adds up incrementally. The interest doesn't help from
Yeah.
the government, but let's say even if it was weight loss or weight gain, if it was weight gain, you start off with just bad habits, and I think that's the key right there. You say, how do you avoid getting there? I think it's creating good habits in your life. Time and time again, that's what I've seen because you can lose weight really quickly and probably not keep it off. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But if you make your health like a lifestyle habit where your food choices, exercise, if that's a habit that's in your life, it keeps you from getting to that place. So when it comes to counteracting all of that, you really have to have good habits in your life, whether it's your health, whether it's your mind, whether it's your finances. Habits, I think, are the key.
Absolutely. And, as we end off a year here and going into a new year, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be having that on their mind as far as, building these new and healthy habits to keep them going throughout the year. So I've been kind of following you on social media. I saw an awesome post the other day of this video of you just kind of sitting in a beach chair in the water with a laptop in your lap doing some work, and you have really created an amazing freedom lifestyle, but a lifestyle that allows you such an awesome business. Do you think that this is completely attainable for pretty much anybody? And if so, where can they figure out what that passion is? You kind of went back to what did you really love as a kid growing up. So is it possible for everyone, and how do they figure out what they should be doing?
Yeah, definitely. And for those of you that are friends with Zephan and I and saw that, because I caught a little flack for that video. People tell me that this is like one of those make money online. When you Google that, you'll see like
No.
some dude. That video was part of a larger video that we have a Kickstarter campaign launching, Jared Easley and I, and that video was just like one snippet from like a really large video. But is this attainable for anybody that wants to do this? Yes. I started this in 2011. I didn't even own a laptop in 2011, Zephan. Like, I didn't own one. I didn't touch it. I didn't understand how to use it. I wasn't on social media until June of 2011. I didn't know anything about any of this kind of stuff because I was a blue collar guy who worked with my hands. I even told, like, when people would text me, I would say, "Why are you texting me, you weirdo? Call me." Like, I didn't even do the texting. That's how ingrained it was in me. And when the first time I looked at WordPress, I honestly thought it was alien. I'm like, what is this? Like, I can't do this. And you learn once you have that passion. And I'm glad you brought that up because there's been a lot of people that have said, pursuing your passion is dumb or passion is dumb. Like, I've seen a lot of that kind of talk. And here's the thing. If you don't have a passion for what you're doing, you can do it for a while, but you'll eventually burn out. I have people all the time that will shoot me a message saying, "Hey, I want to speak all over the world and I want to write for this and do that." And I'll say, "Okay, how do you feel about writing?" "Well, writing isn't my favorite thing." "All right." And then they'll do it and I'll give them some tasks. "Okay, go write a few articles." And after, about a month or two of trying to do this, they'll say, "Man, the writing feels like pulling teeth. I just can't do it. Is there something else?" Because they don't have a passion for it. So if you don't have that passion, that the passion is really what's going to drive you past the times when you fail, the times when you want to give up, the times where you feel stress and like you can't do this. The passion is really what drives you. So I'm glad you really brought that up. But I would tell you, get honest with yourself. What is it that you've always wanted to do with your life? And some people might have several passions. I know a lot of people that way. And honestly, the only real way to know is to test. Before I ever wrote, I said that I had spent that year trying to figure it out, 2011. I thought I was going to be an event planner. And I had the chance to plan my sister's wedding, and it was a disaster. And not because it was a disaster, but the experience of going through that and realizing what an event planner has to do, and realizing that's not for me. I'm an introvert. Like, I can't do that. And then trying out multi-level marketing and telemarketing and like 4 or 5 other things, just testing them out to be able to come back and land on what do I really want to do. So if you have several passions, it might mean testing those out and getting and seeing what you really want to do. But it starts with really getting honest for yourself. If somebody wanted to do this, like a lifestyle business, the cool thing is that there's a lot of good and bad information out there that could teach you how to do this. But honestly, in its simplest form, it's creating a home base, like a website, where you either blog, you podcast, you make videos. You have some place where you have ongoing content where you add value to people. You have things that you sell, so information, products, or courses or books. Some people will go and they'll speak. Some people will coach and consult. There's a lot of options there for you. But we live in a time where there's billions of people on social media. There's billions of people logging. There's 2.5 billion people logging onto the internet every day. If you ever wanted to create a business, whether it's online or offline, there's never been such a targeted customer base in one place. So can you do it? Absolutely, you can do it. I was a bread guy from Wisconsin, so I'm pretty confident you can do it.
Yeah, that's awesome, and especially to hear it from you. I've been following some of your journey, since we first met this past summer, and it's just been so great to see someone really make it happen and really be truthful in on all of it. There's full transparency. We see what you're doing. We know how many words you're writing a day, and we're seeing the work that gets put into it. And it's not just sitting on the beach. I mean, we're really seeing the whole thing. And so, thank you so much for being transparent and showing the full story and proving to everyone that if you want it bad enough, you can definitely make it happen. I guess I have to ask, going into all of this, did you have any fears that could have held you back? And, if so, what were they and how did you kind of crush those? Because clearly you're killing it now.
Yeah, I think it's the overall fear that a lot of people have, and that I still struggle with sometime. And I think that's that imposter syndrome, where you're like, when I first started doing this, I'm like, I'm a bread guy from Wisconsin. Who am I going to be to teach anybody about personal development? And then when I published my second book, which was called Are You Living or Existing? And I put that out there talking about these major changes that I want to make in my life, but I had not done them yet. So I told the reader that, hey, I'm taking you on this journey with me. And the very first review that came in for that book, the person, you could still see it on Amazon. The person went, it was like a tirade, like, this guy's an imposter. This guy's a loser, bread guy, blah, blah. Who is he to tell anybody anything? And it just fed into all the doubt and fear and self-limiting beliefs I had. Just that imposter syndrome and that fear that I would never overcome feeling like an imposter. It took a long time to get over that stuff. And it took a long time to realize that this isn't about me. I'm doing this to help people. I'm doing this to help the working man and woman. And if I was going to help them, I had to take the focus off of myself and had to focus on them and how I could help them. And so instead of thinking about me or being the imposter, I started getting hardcore into the researching. How can I help them? How can I add value to them? What's really going to help them? And that's what I focused on. And then I realized too, you got to do the work anyways. No matter how you feel, you just got to do it, because ultimately doing the work, the hustle, all that is what makes you successful. It helps you get progress. So no matter what I was struggling with, I realized I'm just going to do the work anyways, and that's going to be the best thing. There's always that fear of, I didn't fear entrepreneurship because I was already an entrepreneur, not a very successful one, but I was already an entrepreneur. The thing that you always fear, I think, in entrepreneurship is kind of the sporadic income. Some months are great. You're living on steak and lobster, and then other months you're getting ramen noodles and drinking water. And there are ways to combat that to help it keep it more steady. But at first, before I understood any of that, it was kind of the highs and lows of it, and the fear, like, I'm not going to make any money next month. I'm going to be broke. I'm going to have to go back to a job. So overcoming that fear and really figuring out how to strategically plan in the business.
Very cool. And I think that, part of entrepreneurship and just going on this journey is fear, because it's the unknown. You're stepping into a place that you've never gone before. And I think that it would be wrong if you didn't feel some sort of, whether it was anxiety or, feeling hesitant to take the leap. So I think it just means that you're doing something bigger than what you've ever done before. I'd love to hear a little bit before we wrap up just about Stop Chasing Influencers and what that kind of dives into, and then and share with everyone a little bit of info of how they could find more information about you and keep track of what you're doing.
Yes, Stop Chasing Influencers is my second traditionally published book. I co-wrote it with Jared Easley, who is the co-founder of Podcast Movement, the conference where Zephan and I met, and a lot of other podcasters that I'll listen to this, I'm sure. So we wrote this book. It was about a little over a year ago that Jared and I were talking about how do you build this kind of like a lifestyle / online business, and kind of some of the things that we saw today. And one of the things that we saw that just really didn't work as well as it used to was trying to connect with an influencer in hopes that they'll give you a shout out or give your business a shout out and kind of bring some exposure your way. And then we started talking about, what does actually work today? Not the hype, not the fluff, not the things that are designed to sell you on a course or program, but what actually works. And Jared said, "Hey, we should write a book about this." I said, "Okay, I'm the writer. Sounds like a plan." So we started outlining this book. And the first half of the book, Stop Chasing Influencers, the message is not that you're never going to have heroes, because I have heroes. I'm a huge Gary Vee fan. I'm a big Dan Miller fan. I'm a big Malcolm Gladwell fan. And if I saw him, I'd be a fanboy, right? But the difference is, you don't want to chase them. You don't want to come at them expecting that they're going to do something from your business. If you want to connect with like a hero, somebody that you really respect, because you want to make that connection and you expect nothing else, I think that's great, and I think that's cool. And I think people can sense when you want to connect with them and when you want something from them. We all have that sense. And when you sense that somebody wants something from you, it's not really a good feeling. So the book says, hey, don't chase anyone. You can build your dream / business on your own, and then this is how to do it. So the first half of the book it's all about dealing with those mindset traps and self-limiting beliefs and breaking through and realizing that you have everything inside you to do this. And then the second half of the book is all strategy. So how you would write for large publications, start a successful podcast, book paid speaking, book paid consulting, get on TV, successfully self-publish a book. We really go into a lot of very specific how-to strategies in the second half of that book that anybody could read it, they could walk away from it, and they could start implementing it right away. And, the book comes out in January. No official launch date, but sometime later in January is when the book is going to come out, and it'll be in bookstores everywhere. So very excited about that. And I think it's a message that's needed, and I hope that the book is going to help some people. If you want to find out more, you could head to stopchasinginfluencers.com and you can see it there. If you want to find out what I'm up to, you could head to kimanziconstable.com. That's KIMANZICONSTABLE. Google Kimanzi Constable. Believe it or not, Zephan, I've misspelled my name plenty of times on interviews. So Yeah, you can go to KimanziConstable.com and you can find out what I'm up to and a bunch of other things there.
Very cool. So safest bet is to Google your name to find that website just in case.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so you are heading out in just a few hours here to some crazy awesome trip. And it's all been, part of building this business up and really stepping into who you are now. And so it's so great to see that happen for you. And thank you so much for sharing your story with everybody. And Kimanzi, I hope you have safe travels and definitely would love to stay in touch with you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. And if you're listening to this, the one thing I would tell you is, I started this journey in 2011. We're here in 2015. So 4 years later, I'm an overnight success.
That's awesome.
So that's exactly how that works. I don't want you to hear a 30-minute podcast interview and think that this just happened overnight, because it didn't. It takes years and it takes a lot of hard work.
Yeah, definitely, man. Thanks so much for sharing your story. Safe travels, and we'll keep in touch.
Mahalo.
This episode of The Year of Purpose is brought to you by our brand new book, Life Rescripted. Find your purpose and design your dream life before the curtains close. If you want to be the first in line to receive a free digital copy from me, all you have to do is head on over to www.liferescriptedbook.com to find out more. I've discovered what I think is the world's most effective process to design your path in life. It'd be a shame if I didn't share it. In Life Rescripted, you will discover the #1 strategy for determining your life purpose and how you can start a new path today, the 5X life hack rule for accomplishing your dreams and designing your life on your own terms 5 times faster, the ultimate solution for fear and how you can leverage it right now to make this year your best year yet, and so much more. Reserve your spot in line to get a free copy at www.liferescriptedbook.com, and I will see you in the next episode.